Hey guys, welcome everyone to Twilight. We hope you enjoy our videos. If there's anything in the video that you don't like or if you have any concerns, please let us know in the comment section. Let's keep the conversation going, but for now, let's head towards the video. What if Edward met his rich doppelganger and got a second chance at life? Wrapping my arms around myself, I tried to ignore the fact that I was standing under what felt like a waterfall. It drenched the only clothes I had to my name so badly there was no point even having them on. Glancing back down at the card in my hands, I fought off the tears pooling under my eyes. Street. Anne's woman's shelter. A sour-looking nun had given me this card 2 days ago along with enough change to get some food and a bus ticket. Don't be ashamed. There are plenty of young girls your age there, she had said. I'm not sure if she was just born with the unfortunate grimace on her face or if she was trying her best not to comment on how badly I smelled. Either way, I was ashamed. I should have been ashamed. When you date a drug dealer, what do you expect to happen with your life? I was a smart college student, and I'd say smart because there were some people who definitely have not gotten a high school diploma. I spent my whole life trying to get into Seattle University and within months pissed it away. I missed my apartment with the beautiful teal walls and fluffy white carpet. My car, clothes, deity, all were gone with it. I was better off in the foster care system as a child. At least I didn't live in makeshift tents behind Italian restaurants back then. So here I was standing on Lexington and 2nd at midnight, being pissed on by God, waiting for a bus to take me to another shelter. This was my life now. When it pulled up, I didn't bother meeting anyone's eyes. I didn't want to see the same cocktail of disgust, hate, pity and fear. Instead, I dropped in all the money to my name and took a seat in the back. Curling myself into a ball, I tried to keep my teeth from chattering and my body from shivering, tried being the key word. You know what, Edward, a woman stated as she took her seat. Fuck you. All I asked for was some time away, and that makes me a bad mother. I carried them for 9 months. I gave up my career. Excuse me, yes, I did have a career, a very nice one before you, stupid ass. She paused when the woman and child next to her moved further back on the bus. The kid looked at me oddly before looking back at the woman. His small face bunched as though he could not figure out a math problem. No, Edward, I was not giving you my attention. I was distracted by some bitch and her kid. This is what happens when you force me to use public transportation. I couldn't see her face behind her stupid purple hat on her head, but I wanted to bash it in anyway. I'm sorry, bitch, we forgot to put on our $900 Jimmy Choo's, designer jeans and wool coat before sitting on a bus at midnight. Look, Edward, we've tried to work this out and honestly I don't know why you want to. I get it, you don't believe in divorce, but I do, and so does the state of Washington. She sighed, checking out her nails. I felt so badly for the man on the other end of that phone. He should just hang up and find a nice girl to fuck and keep it moving. Edward, Xavier and Sasha are 3 years old. When did they turn 4? Oh my god, she didn't know how old her children were. I couldn't even bring myself to look at the beautiful brown curls at the back of her head anymore. They were lying curls. They made her look well from behind, sweet, like an American Girl doll. Don't, Isabella, me, you are nothing but a small dick, no good. Jesus, give me strength. Before I could even stop myself, I marched up the aisle. Can you please call him back later? He may be able to take your abuse, but I can't. She held the back of her finger up at me like I was her damn maid. Hold on, Edward, a crazy homeless woman is asking me for change. Do not break her finger. Do not beat the shit out of her on a moving bus. Listen, bitch, she stopped the moment our eyes, brown eyes, the same eyes, locked together. She was the carbon copy of me with makeup, a better haircut, and clothes. We both stared at each other frozen when all of a sudden we were standing. We were flying towards the other side of the bus. All the windows shattered on what had to be impact with the road. Ah. Those were my screams, or maybe they were, but it wasn't mine alone. Steel crashed against steel, people were thrown all over the place and I couldn't move. All around me was bloody glass, it dug into my skin and my legs felt too heavy to move. I was just frozen on the side of the bus, which now kissed the ground. Fire. Everyone out. Someone yelled behind me, but again, I couldn't move. I could barely even see from the blood on my face. Reaching up to touch it, I winced away before trying to push myself back up. But the pain in my ankle only worsened. Damn it! I cried. Looking up at the beautiful curls of the woman who looked just like me being crushed under a bus seat. Her hands were twitching badly and it looked like there was a river of blood spilling out of her. Hold on. I cried, army crawling over the glass and steel to get to her. You are not in pain. You are not in pain. I yelled at myself as I made my way over to her. The seat had fallen on her stomach and chest. It was the only thing keeping her alive. In one hand she held on to her phone, the other was pinned behind her painfully. Shit. Brushing back her hair, I tried to take the glass out of her eyes. Her face was cut all over. It looked like she had went face first into the window, her cheeks were swelling and her nose was definitely broken. You're going to be okay. I told her, looking for anything that would help us both, but all I could see was the black and orange smoke taking up the front. You stole my face. She smiled, or at least tried to, with only one eye semi-open. Bitch, you stole my face. I whispered back to her, causing her to cry and laugh. Taking a deep breath, she tried to speak again, but I stopped her. Stop, your lungs must have collapsed, you need. You're Isabella. No, I'm Isadora. Even our names were close. She shook her head at me. I'm a horrible person, Isadora. You're kind of a bitch, but not a horrible person. Stop talking. Help is going to be here any moment now. No, Isa, please, my husband. Edward, I remembered for her. She nodded, smiling through her pain, which only made me feel worse. He's such a good man. I just don't know how to handle good things. You have to help him. Oui. Okay, I'll help him. I promise, just be me. She said, releasing her phone. Be Isabella Swan Cullen. I can't. Don't let my kids remember me as a raging bitch, please. Isabella. No, she shook her head again. She was so stupid. She needed to stop moving. They are going to call you Bella. I have twins just like us. Twins. We were twins. She was my sister. I thought I was alone. I cried. I've always been alone. So did I, she smiled, and when I'm gone. No. I can't find out I have a twin and lose her in the same hour. This is fucked up. No. You aren't dying here, so shut up. We are going to catch up on the last 24 years. It wasn't fair. I don't have to be alone anymore. She was here. Edward, Xavier and Sasha, please. Please make them happy. I've fucked up my life so badly. I may fuck up too. It's in our DNA, so you can't. This is our redo, you already have the looks. She joked. Stop, I tried to laugh, but I just kept coughing. Bella, you have to go. She cried harder, pushing me away with her only free hand. No, not without you. I'm done. Please don't waste our second chance. I wish I knew. She stopped. That was it? Her words just stopped and I wasn't sure what to say. I just cried, which made me choke. It was only after another explosion from the front did I leave the broken American Girl doll that was my twin and took her phone. Crawling away from her, I tried not to think about the other bodies frozen on the floor of the bus. I just kept crawling towards the open end of the bus. There's someone coming out. Someone yelled, but I could just see my body fall over the edge. The next thing I knew, there were arms around me. Mom! Mom, can you hear me? I'm a paramedic. Mom, what is your name? The man yelled as he took me further and further away from the burning bus. Isa, before I could finish it, the tomb of the only family I had ever known exploded into a fiery ball of hell. There was nothing but more and more screams. As they placed me on the stretcher, I cried and did the one thing she asked me to do. Isabella. I whispered, Isabella Swan Cullen. I felt myself fading as they closed the door to the ambulance, and the last thing I heard before it all went black was, phone ahead to Seattle Hope Memorial and let them know we have drive. Cullen's wife. Shit. Rose, you shouldn't have brought them here. No. I just want to sleep. Nothing hurts when I sleep. Just shut up. Edward, what did you expect me to do? They saw the news. They demanded to see her. I hate you all, go away. Rose, therefore they demand ice cream for breakfast. Erg. Snapping my eyes open, I prepared to scream, however, I was blinded by the bright overhead light. Grimacing only made the pain throughout my body worse. Oh. I hissed, trying to get up. Mommy! Mommy! Two very loud, overly caffeinated children yelled before jumping me. No. The green-eyed man shouted, but it was too late. Ouch. I screamed, trying to back away. Xavier. Sasha. What did I just tell you? He howled down at them, reaching over to pick them both up, one in each arms. They both hung their heads, burrowing in his chest. I stared at them for a moment. They were cute. Sasha had her mother's, well, my brown hair and nose, but her father's bright green eyes, while her brother had mine, hers. Me sorry, mommy. The girl frowned. Me too, don't yell. Her brother whispered, not bothering to look at me. He just held on to his bear. He looked so small and so lonely. He looked like me as a kid, except he has parents. The man, the beautiful man with the broad shoulders, strong jaw and bright eyes, looked just as broken as his son. Did she do this to them? He looked like he was waiting for me to say something, anything. Each moment I didn't, pain, anger and frustration shined brighter in his eyes. See, mommy's fine, you all should head back home with Auntie Rose. He said, kissing their foreheads as he lowered them to ground. It was then did I notice the blonde glaring at me from the door. She looked as though I had shot her puppy, and the more she gave me the evil eye, the less I wanted her to have Xavier or Sasha. They were kind of part mine, right? I was their aunt too. Yet I didn't know them. Xavier, if you don't want me to yell, you shouldn't leave me all alone here. He froze, looking up at me as if I had said something odd. I made room for him on the bed as he held on tight to his bear, making his way over. Trying my best not to wince, I pulled him next to me. Look at that, I'm feeling better already. He smiled, and so did I. Mommy, can I come up too? Sasha asked, still holding on to her father's scrub bottoms. Xavier, you think we can make room for your sister? I laughed when he looked around to honestly make sure before nodding. Of course, green eyes. She grinned brightly and looked up to her father before coming over as well. The man, Edward. He looked at me as though he was trying to figure out if I was real. Careful, Sasha, he said, pointed to the cast on my foot. Well, look at that. I said, helping her up as well. I hadn't even noticed I had a cast on. Do you guys know what we do with cast? Xavier looked at his father, then to me. Daddy said it's to fix people. You mean to tell me Daddy didn't tell you the secret trick to getting casts off quickly? I looked over to Sasha, who just shook her head at me. Glaring up at Edward, I did my best to keep a straight face. Daddy, would you please explain to me why they don't know the ultimate bone healer is doodling Sharpies? He smirked quickly before it dropped, because there is no scientific proof to doodling Sharpies. With my hands, I closed their ears, pulling them into my chest, which caused them to laugh and try to reach up close my ears. I guess he could help himself. He pulled his phone and took a picture of us. He's taking pictures and we don't have Sharpies. Guys, I'm getting worse. I told them, causing their eyes to go wide. Daddy, Sharpies. We need Sharpies. They yelled at him. Luckily for him, the blonde had them in her purse. Be careful not to get it all over yourselves, she said, patting them both on the head. Now what? They asked me. Wow. You write all over my cast, silly. Make sure there is no white left. The excitement over just scribbling on my leg had to be the funniest thing I had ever seen. Sasha was so excited when she pulled the cap of ink smeared all over her hands. She looked up, wide-eyed at Rose. She opened her mouth to speak, but I beat her to it. Don't worry, we can wipe our hands on Daddy's coat. It sure is white enough. I joked, causing his jaw to drop before looking down at his coat. I will take that as a compliment. Now, do I get to sign or should I just back away? He smiled, but it seemed like he was serious. Looking down at Xavier and Sasha, whom were both concentrating hard on whatever they were writing, I asked. Is there space for Dad? They looked up at him and shook their heads. Sorry, Daddy, I'm drawing a princess and queen in a castle. Sasha replied. I'm drawing lines and I need space. Xavier told him with his tongue poking out of the side of his mouth. Didn't I teach you to share? He pouted down at them. We are. They smiled and I couldn't help but laugh. They were cute and had the marks of becoming true masters of wit. I liked them. Edward sighed loudly, sitting on the edge of the bed, but they both just ignored him, making me giggle. His green eyes snapped up at me, shutting me up quickly. Brushing my hair back, I tried not to focus too much on him. When I did, I noticed he was very attractive and he would notice that my face would, well, I would blush, and blushing was only cute for virgins and children. I was neither. Lifting up my other leg onto the edge, right between him and Xavier, he stared at it, confused and something else. At least I had taken a shower yesterday at the metro. All you needed was a bathroom sink, soap and a $2 razor. Well, Doc, we can't let you get away with signing nothing. And since these two aren't up for sharing, you may as well. I told him, nodding to my encasted leg. Again, he just stared. What was with the damn staring? A second later, he looked over to the morphine drip I didn't know I had. He thinks I'm high. Believe me, it's going to take more than 2 milligrams of morph to get me buzzing. If you don't want to sign, it's fine. I told him, putting my leg down, but before I completed the action, he grabbed a hold of it and I wanted to jump out of my skin as a shiver ran up my spine. He must have felt it too, or at least he was frozen for a reason. He stared at my leg in his hands and before looking up at me. His green eyes were glazed over with something I didn't dare to guess. Sign, Daddy. Sasha popped over my other leg, giving him her Sharpie. Thank you, sweetheart. She smiled and blushed. She actually blushed, and knowing that I wasn't the only that did made me feel less alone. Are you okay? He asked when I jumped at the pen on my skin. Yes, I'm fine. I nodded for him to continue. Taking up the whole side of my leg, he signed Edward A. Cullen beautifully. What do you guys think? He asked the kids, showing off my leg. Xavier titled his head. You need more lines. What? Xavier, why don't you try drawing something else? Rose asked him, making me wonder why she was still here. Actually, I like the lines. Lines in art mean never ending, a path leading into adventures, the unknown. They never break because they're strong.
I didn't mean to rant, and by the looks on their faces, it made me almost want to scream out, "It's okay, I'm not crazy, I just took art in college."
But I wasn't sure how that would go over. Instead, I looked over at the morphine drip. Maybe it's too high.
Nodding, he went over to check in once again. The blonde reached for the kids, making me want to beat the shit out of her.
I just got them. They were the only family I had, and she kept putting her head in. It was time I did like King Henry and chopped it off her shoulders. Rose, thank you, but I got it. You can go home now. I tried to say politely. You can't seriously be thinking of letting them sleep here. We're in a hospital, neither of them would be comfortable. Or does what they want once again not matter to you? She snapped. Obviously she and Isabella had history. I had no idea what her problem was, which made it a lot harder to keep calm. The only thing that pulled me back was watching Sasha yawn. I was being selfish. Where would they sleep? Rose, thank you, but Bella is right. Thank you for helping today, he said. Her mouth dropped open before she placed her hand on her hips. Edward, you can't be serious. You're still on call. Rose. We're fine. I will pull up another bed and check in every moment I can. She glared at him before dropping next to Xavier and kissing his forehead. Bye, monkeys, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, auntie. They said, crawling up the side of my bed in order to lay down better. Pulling the small blanket I had over the three of us, I just patted their heads. They were so precious, so real. No matter what, I still had them. I've never had a family before. I've never had people that were mine, and yet, here the two of them were. I'm not the type of person who believes in love at first sight, but with them it was true. They, my nephew and niece, were my whole reason for being. For the first time in all of my life, I didn't feel so alone anymore. It almost made losing her hurt less. I had known her for 5 minutes. For 3 of those minutes, I had thought she was a raging bitch, the one thing she didn't want her kids to remember. I didn't need a psychology background to know she had hurt them.
But how and how badly could I even do this? Could I pretend to be someone else for the rest of my life? I mean, it had to be a woman's shelter, but still, can I really do this?
I love you, mommy. Sasha whispered, resting her head on my thigh. It hurt, but it was worth the pain. Love you too, green eyes. I was so focused on them I hadn't even noticed Rose leave or Edward take a seat on the chair beside me. He didn't say a word, he just kept watching. You're making me uncomfortable, I whispered, not looking up at him. Yeah, I know the feeling. He hissed at me. Whatever warmth he had before was disappearing fast as the kids went to sleep. I wasn't sure how to handle this.
Isabella said he was a good guy, but what did that mean? Was he Clark Kent good, or lady you need the wool picked from your eyes, he's wife beater and you can't see it type of good?
I should just tell him the truth, but he would have to believe me. I have my license. In the burning bus. Shit. Well, there has to be records of me I can pull up. But what if he tried to take the kids away? If he knew about my past, he sure as hell wouldn't let me near them. That Rose bitch would make sure of it. Jesus, Bella, he stated, reaching over to grab my wrist as the machine went off. Pulling away from his side. Sorry, I forgot. I'm a sorry excuse for a man and the last asshole you would ever want to be with again. No. Not at all. I said quickly, and that wasn't Isabella, that was me. Shit, this was getting confusing. I had to tell him the truth. Bella, I don't want to keep doing this to them. If you want the divorce, fine, they stay with me. I've already set it up. You wanted out since day one. I was selfish to keep you from living the life you wanted, and you came seconds from losing that life. So I will bring the papers in the morning. Stop talking, I told him, holding onto my head. Lie, Isadora. Lie your ass off or end up in the streets alone sharing your blanket with rats, not family. You're smart. Lie. Fucking lie. Are you alright? Edward, do we fight a lot? I looked him dead in his eyes. He frowned. Bella, no more games. Honestly, Edward, do we fight a lot? Because I don't remember. I don't remember asking for a divorce. I don't remember fighting with you. I barely remember anything but Sasha and Xavier. I don't know why I was on that bus, but I do know I was talking to you. I know that this is Seattle Hope Memorial and you are a doctor here. We are married. These are our kids. But everything else is blank. I didn't say it before because that woman, Rose, she kept looking at me as though I skinned puppies for a living. All I know is I love you and you're not taking my kids away from me. Dear God, let him buy this shit in spades. Hopefully the I love you would work. I remembered something in psychology about the brain deleting memories to spare itself. If he believed I didn't remember, maybe, just maybe, I could pull this off. Standing, he cupped the side of my cheek, flashing those stupid lights in my eyes. Bella, when is my birthday? Shit. Pass. He smirked. Yeah, well, you always forgot that anyway. Dates aren't your thing. Sorry. Frowning, he just looked me over, pinching the bridge of his nose. So you honestly don't remember not wanting kids? Not wanting kids, I repeated, looking down at the children beside me. I'm going to have Jasper look you over in the morning. We did a cord scan when you came in, but we didn't see anything. From Glasgow coma scale, you were high enough that we didn't think to worry about sufficient brain damage. He will do a full MRI and maybe an EEG just to be. Edward, I snapped my fingers at him, trying to bring him back from whatever Doctor Who episode he was stuck in. Yes, he whispered, leaning forward.
I say this as your wife, even though I'm not sure if that means anything since you apparently wanted a divorce, but your bedside manner sucks.
Sitting back, a giant grin spread across his face and he tried to cover it. You must have gotten hit really hard. Is that your medical opinion? If so, I don't trust this hospital. It was joke, but he was still looking me over. Looking the kids over. What if this it? He asked me seriously. If this is what? I'll redo. Why did everyone keep saying that? You want a redo with me? I want a redo for our kids. I don't want them afraid mommy is going to throw a guitar at daddy's head. I threw a guitar at you, Jesus. I wasn't sure who my twin was, but she played no games. Are you sure you aren't over-exaggerating? Maybe it was ukulele. It was a guitar. He said, pulling out his pager as it buzzed. Shit, I got to go. I got exhausted to the chest. He could tell all that from a pager. Okay then, go. Blinking at me, he stared at Xavier and Sasha, then at me. I was their mom, kind of, sort of. Edward, go, we'll still be here when you get back. I doubt I can go away with this thing over my foot and they're out cold. I will be back as soon as I can, and I will also have a nurse check you over in a few minutes just to make sure you're okay. He replied, kissing Xavier's head before moving over to Sasha. He really loved them. He was Clark Kent sweet. Without thinking, he came over to me and froze. Before he could pull away, I just kissed him. I was a horrible two-timing, sister-husband stealing slut, so I kissed him right on the lips and even went so far as to grab the back of his head. He moaned as we broke away. Licking his lips, he met my gaze before walking to the door. Bye. I called out to him. He mumbled something back before leaving. Touching my lips, all I could think to say was, shit. Not only did I like the kiss, I wanted more of it. An hour ago, I didn't even think I could do this, and here I was lying, kissing him, holding his kids. It was just so easy. It was like I was born to be here. However, how long would he buy my I don't remember bullshit? What if I slipped up? What if he noticed something about me that was off? Really off? How closely alike were Isabella and I? Those were the questions plaguing my mind as I laid down Xavier and Sasha, both inching closer to me. She had given me this new chance at a family. Edward was the price I had to pay. Then at least he would think his wife cared for him, right? No one was really getting hurt. This could work. I could learn and we could have a redo. Closing my eyes, I smiled. This could work. Edward. Sighing, falling onto the seat, my whole body was begging for sleep, but I couldn't, not now at least. The clock on the wall was mocking me. It was 4 in the morning. Instead, I just kept drinking coffee and watching her. I had just taken 2 bullets out of a 9-year-old playing with his father's gun. One had nicked a left artery. I knew he wasn't going to make it. There was no way we could replace the amount of blood gushing out of him. At one point, I could have sworn he looked like Xavier. Telling his father had to be the worst. He had already lost his wife, now his son. Looking up at Bella, it hit me for the 100th time how close I was to losing her. We weren't the best couple. In fact, we were one of the worst. 4 years ago we were just 2 horny 20-somethings looking for a fun time, no string attached. We were idiots. I was an idiot. I knew I was going to get attached. She was young, beautiful, funny, happy, and then she had Xavier and Sasha. The depression became worse and worse, and soon it turned into so much anger I felt guilty because she didn't want them. She knew she wouldn't be a good mother. She told me she could feel herself slipping. I told to just calm down, we could do it. I would help her be the mother I knew she could be. But I failed. She wasn't happy and I forced her to deal with it. She was a young runway model with her entire future ahead of her, and I forced her to give birth to kids she didn't want, only because I did. It was my fault. Is the coffee? A soft whisper pulled me out of my thoughts. She tried to roll over slightly, but her cast wouldn't let her. Sorry, I didn't know you were awake. I'll get rid of it. I forgot she hated the scent of coffee. Get rid of it, bite your tongue and hand it over, she pouted, reaching over Xavier's head. What? Since when do you like coffee? She froze, dropping her hand slowly. I'll get you some coffee and breakfast. My sister will be over to take the kids. I whispered when she looked away. She jumped up, wincing, trying to pull them closer to her. No, please don't take them. Bella, calm down. I told her, standing up to grab her shoulder. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. Who was she? When did she start to care so much? Bella, Alice is just going to take them to the house while Jasper does some more imagining. Okay, we can all have dinner here tonight. I'm taking some time off, I said, brushing back her hair. I couldn't help but wonder what was wrong. Touching her made me feel something I hadn't felt anything in years. Okay, she was holding onto my hand, but she looked lost and thought, yeah, they should get something better than hospital food. Yeah, Xavier wouldn't mind the jello though. I laughed, causing her to look up at me. There was that look again, confusion, hope, joy, and just a bit of fear. But it couldn't be. Isabella hadn't had any of those things in her brown eyes for years. Before she could speak, her stomach growled as though she hadn't eaten in days. Her eyes went wide before her whole face tinted red. Are you blushing? Shut up, she hissed, covering her face with her hands. I couldn't help but laugh. Sasha did it all the time, but I had never once seen Bella blush. It was just as cute. Handing her the last fruity granola bar I had in my pocket, she took it quickly. Thank you. Just saying thank you now, this is some sort of trick to get me to have a heart attack. The icing on the cake had to be watching her eat it. It shouldn't have been as seductive as I took it, but it was like she was having an orgasm in her mouth. It was just oats and fruits. Xavier and Sasha are in the room, calm down. I tried to tell myself, but we hadn't had sex in a year and here she was moaning because of fruit. Sorry. She blushed again, catching me staring. I was really hungry. I noticed. It's fine. If you've lived in the desert for the last year. Tilting her head to the side, just like Xavier does, she looked me over. Maybe you should get some sleep, you look like crap, Edward. I was the one in a bus accident. Yeah, did you happen to see what happened? By the way, you all weren't hit by anything. In fact, the police were still trying to figure out what caused it. She frowned, shaking her head before forcing a smile. Stop avoiding my statement, you need rest. Yes you do. Alice popped in, blue streaks in her black hair and all. Shocked? I snapped at her, reaching over Sasha as she stirred. It was still too early for them to be getting up. Sorry, the little pain whispered as she tipped closer. Bella, with strength and not even aware she had, picked up Xavier, holding him closer to her. What the? Alice whispered, freezing as she looked at them both. Glaring at her, I hoped to God the twin connection really worked and she could feel me mentally kicking the shit out of her. You got here a lot earlier than I thought. Bella smiled sadly. She kept acting like she wouldn't see them again. Alice didn't speak, she just glared at her, whole body stiff as if she were afraid to make any sudden movements. This was ridiculous. I knew my family disliked her, but still she wasn't a beast. Edward, why don't you help the kids get buckled up? I'll be down in a moment, I just want to talk to Bella. We don't want to leave mommy. Xavier yawned, wrapping his arms around her neck, which brought his bear right into the side of her face. She just laughed. I'm going to be right here. Daddy just wants to take pictures of my head. Go with Aunt Alice, and tonight Daddy said we can have a big dinner here. Can we have barbecue? Sasha asked into my neck. Bouncing her on my arm, I could only nod. Of course we can have barbecue. I will smuggle it in for us. Edward. Alice cut in again. What the hell was wrong with her? I just want to make sure Bella has all the feminine things she needs. Rolling my eyes at her, I reached over Xavier, who kissed Bella on the cheek before jumping on. Let's go make sure Auntie Alice brought the right car seats this time. I smiled, carrying them out the door. Before I made it out, Bella called. I love you guys. Freezing, I turned back. I love you too, mommy. Sasha grinned so wide her face looked like it was going to break. I love you more. Xavier added. They both looked to me, waiting. I felt like a fish, my mouth opening and closing but nothing coming out. This was the second time in 12 hours she had said I loved you. Me too, was all I could manage to say before leaving her and an oddly calm, eerily quiet Alice alone. Isabella. She just stared at me, walking around the bed before she stood at my cast. She pushed at the ankle, causing me to jump back, but I could only get so far. What in the hell? I hissed out, staring at my foot. That's what I would like to know. She snapped at me. Her eyes narrowed as her hands glowed blue. What in the bloody hell? Staring at blue flames taking up her hands, I tried to find the will to speak. What? I'm going to ask you this once and only once, which? Who the fuck are you? Because you sure as hell are not Isabella Cullen. I have no problems, burn fellow witches. Which what hell? What the hell kind of drugs am I on? I asked, looking over at the drip in my arm before once again staring at the actual blue wire engulfed around her hands. She just glared at me while circling my bed. Don't play with me. Start talking or I will burn your face off. Who are you? Your aura is completely different. I couldn't speak, I just froze. Which must have ticked her off because next thing I knew, a ball of fire came right at my shoulder. Ah.
I gasped out, trying to move it, but my arm was nothing but dead weight and numb, as if it was sitting in ice for too long.
I'm not going to ask you again, witch. This isn't real. I'm dreaming and it's time to wake up. I whispered, closing my eyes. I really just wanted to click my heels and go home, except I had no home. Home was going to be a rundown shelter up north. You really don't know, she whispered, her eyes wide as the flames in her hand disappeared. No, what did you do to my arm? I screamed, trying to lift it again, but it was like I had no control. She reached over and I tried to jerk away, but again my arm wouldn't move. She grabbed hold of my arm and this time the fire didn't hurt. The moment the door snapped open, it was gone again. Alice, Edward and the kids, another doctor with light scruffy brown hair and bright eyes, stepped into the room, wheelchair in hand, and stared at us confused. Hey baby, how are you? Alice skipped over to him, tiptoeing in order to kiss his cheek. I'm good. How are you too? I came to visit you, Bella, but you were asleep. He smiled awkwardly. I didn't even know his name to reply, all I could do was smile and nod. The little. Whatever she was noticed, she was watching every move I made. It was like she was trying to read me. Well, Jasper, she said, looking at me, I better go, I wouldn't want to interrupt. Bella, I really hope you feel better. We can talk more later, my mother will be by later, alright? Yeah, okay. What the fuck had I gotten into? At least Jasper looked as confused as I did. He just watched her leave, folding his hands over his chest and shaking his head. I should be used to it already, right? Excuse me. Turning back, he shrugged, him marrying the crazy and wild Alice. I really shouldn't be surprised by anything she does now. I guess. Is the wheelchair for me? I really didn't want to talk about Alice. It made my brain feel like it wanted to jump out of my head and escape. He nodded, straightening up like a good awkward doctor, reaching for my arm in order to help me out of the tiny white bed. My legs felt like lead and I needed to rest all of my weight on him in order to get up. Edward was explaining to me how you had difficulty remembering things. Do you know what today is? He asked when I had sat down and was checking my cast. Yesterday was May 20th. So I can only guess it's May 21st. Of what year? May 21st of 2013. Nodding, he checked my eyes with those stupid pens which only worsened the headache I was starting to get. Has anyone ever told you that you nod a lot? It was like he was listening to his own private playlist while he looked me over. Yes, actually, Edward tells me that all the time. Now I grip my fingers. Laughing, I stared at the index finger in front of me. I know this game and Daho rather not. Seriously, he laughed along, somewhat startled. Seriously, what? Edward's voice rang out behind me, forcing me to stretch my neck at the door. I couldn't help but notice how attractive he looked even in the pale and horrible lighting of the hospital. He looked tense, both his hands in his lab jacket. As nurses and doctors blurred behind him, going only God knows where. Your wife's being difficult. Jasper snickered, but Edward looked neither amused or surprised. His green eyes just narrowed in on me as if to say, what else is new? I didn't like that look and I disliked Jasper for making him look at me that way. Ouch. He pouted when I smacked his knee. A rat and an awkward doc. I don't think this relationship of ours is going to work out. I wished I could kick him, but I will save it until I wasn't crippled in a chair. Oh really? I came here as a favor to my future brother-in-law and this is how you treat me? Oh bullshit. You came here because you're legally required to help me. Who's your chief of surgery? I'm sure he would love to know how you treat bus accident victims. Would you like me to give you both the room? Edward frowned, glaring at Jasper as though he was public enemy number one. Jasper only raised an eyebrow at him. I was going to bring her down, but I think you can handle it while I check on another patient. I will meet you both down there in a few. Wait, whose finger am I going to pull? He turned back at me and shook his head before leaving the Grinch and me alone. He was radiating anger and I couldn't even bring myself to ask why. I just sat there in the chair, drumming my fingers on my thighs as he walked behind me. Without another word, he pushed me gently out the door and into the world of butt cracks, hand sanitizers and scrubs. It was like Drive. Sue's book of red scrubs, blue scrubs, scrubs galore. As interesting as that was, the big kicker was the looks on everyone's faces. They watched us, Edward mostly, as he went by. Most of the women stared and even a few men, some with lust while others looked at him with pity. I hated being the center of attention, but being the center of negative attention was, by far, the worst thing in the world. If they did look at me, it was in disgust. I felt like I was being paraded through the village square with an S on my chest. Sinking down, I tried to hide my face with my hands. I could feel the panic set in my ears, getting hot as my heart pumped faster than I ever thought possible. That's her, right? Drive. Cullen's bitchy wife, one of them whispered, and I wondered why he didn't say anything. He just acted like he couldn't hear it, pushing the button to open the door to the elevator. Yep, that's her, the spawn of Satan herself. Another whispered from behind her computer monitor, peeking over the edge to stare at me as if I were some wild animal in a cage. What is wrong with them? I whispered to myself when the steel doors finally shut and I was out of their view. What is wrong with who now? Edward groaned from behind me, checking his phone. I was 2 seconds away from using the side of my foot as a bat against his handsome face. Didn't you hear them, or did he just not care? Hear what? The nurses, they were talking about me. When? What the Sam hell, I just wanted to go, I was done with this shit. My head hurt, I was just now getting all the feeling back in my arm, I was in a fucking cast. I had a sister who just died and I don't know shit about her. Alice can make fire with her hands and... I didn't mean to cry, but everything was just now starting to hit me. The tears wouldn't stop, no matter how hard I wiped, they wouldn't fucking stop rolling off my face. Bella, what's wrong? He whispered, kneeling in front of me quickly and grabbing onto the side of my face. He tried to wipe the tears too, but I was broken and they just wouldn't stop. What's wrong? I shouldn't be here, I won't go home. But I don't have a home, I've never had a home, so I can't go home. And... Bella, what are you talking about? You always have a home. I haven't moved any of your clothes out of the closet or your shoes. Everything is right where you left them. He didn't get it. Edward, I am not who you think I am. You're being so nice to me even though you were an ass a minute ago. But I deserved it, right? Isabella was a horrible person, right? Everyone here hates me and I didn't do anything, I swear. Stop. Take a breath, he told me sternly. Shocked. He snapped, placing his thumb on my lips. It felt weird there and yet I wanted to lean into it. Now, when I move my thumb, take a deep breath. Don't you dare speak, just breathe in, okay? I could only nod, breathing with only my nose at this point. Moving his thumb away, he nodded for me to breathe. Sucking in a deep breath before releasing it. Again. Breathe in and release. One more time. Smiling, I rolled my eyes, taking a giant breath before I released it. It was at that very moment I realized I hadn't brushed my teeth. Smacking my hands over my mouth, I tried my best not to blush, but I could feel it. I was breathing my horrible breath all over him. What are you doing? He laughed, reaching up to remove my hands. No. Honestly, I swear you're as bad as Xavier and Sasha. Sticking out my tongue at him, I realized I hadn't really helped myself with that one, so did he. When the doors finally opened at the 4th floor, I was more than happy to find less nurses and more machines. It was a short walk for him into what I guessed was the MRI scanning room. There was nothing but a giant scanner in the middle of a glassed room. Wheeling me over to the bench at the mouth of the machine, he lifted me up with ease like he had done it one too many times and laid me on the bed. Comfortable, he whispered, looking down at me. For the first time today he didn't look annoyed, he looked like he really cared. I opened my mouth before shutting it quickly and nodded. You know, I've never seen you cry before, he whispered down to me. How could he have not seen me cry? Well, his wife cry, everyone cries at some point, right? What I'm trying to say is you're not a horrible person, okay? Edward, Bella, I'm ready. Jasper cut in over the intercom from the other room. The men in this family really knew how to ruin a good mood. When Edward pulled away, I found myself reaching for him. He stared down at my hand for a moment before kissing it. It'll be on the other side of the glass the whole time, okay? Okay. Releasing him was harder than it should have been, considering I had only known him for a day. However, that wasn't even near the top of my Freaky Friday. Bella, I just need you to stay still. The machine is kind of slow today, so bear with me and lay back. I will be asking you a few questions in front of Edward, is that okay? What does that mean and what type of questions? Shit. Bella, if you would like, I can step out. No, I'm fine, go ahead. It's not like I have anything to hide, right? The first few questions are test questions. Edward will read them out just to test familiarity as I monitor your brain. If you say so, you're the one who went to med school. Art and music were more my thing. How old are you? Edward asked. Didn't anyone ever tell you not to ask a woman that? I smiled at the white cocoon I was in. It's a medical emergency, I apologize if it offends you. Edward snickered. I'm 24. When is your birthday? September 26th. Where were you born? I froze. I was born in Washington, but what about my sister? Did she know? Bella, are you alright? Edward asked slowly. I hated the fact that they could see my brain right now. Was it lighting up all over the place? How about we skip that one? What are our children's names? Xavier and Sasha Cullen. How old are they? 4. What are my parents' names? Shit. Next. There was silence for a moment and I had a feeling they were writing things down or at least staring at me. What is our address? Double shit, those were basic questions. I had to tell him. I should tell him who I was, that I was fraud. Bella, when is my birthday? Edward, I can't do this. Get me out of here, please. I don't want to be picked apart, I just want out. I was starting to panic. Okay. Bella, breathe. What did I tell you about breathing? Relax, okay, you're fine, right? Closing my eyes, I just nodded. I think you made a motion, but I can't really see it. I nodded. I'm alright for the time being. One more question, he asked, and I didn't know if I had a choice. Go ahead. Why did you snap your hand over your mouth in the elevator and blush? He was grinning, I could feel it, the ass. Is this really what we're using $1 million equipment for? I had totally forgotten about that until now. Yep. I disliked him, I thought, even though I smiled. If you must know, I haven't brushed my teeth yet, okay? I felt bad breathing all over you like that. Don't blush. Don't blush. I watched as my father pull out a tapeworm. Use, please don't. I couldn't help but shiver. Please stay still. Jasper's voice rang out. I had almost forgotten he was there. How about you ask me some questions? Jasper needs a few more images. I promised to be 100% honest, cross my little heart. He made me smile and I had no clue why. Fine, when is your birthday again? Of all the questions, I'm the one getting to ask the questions. Dr. Cullen, you wouldn't want to see a picture of my angry brain, right? It's June 29th. Do you like cats or dogs? What in the world? I like dogs, you don't. I feel like you're reading from. Next question. Do you often frequent? The roaring laughter could only have come from Jasper. Never. Next question. Looking down, I wished I could see his faces and not my stupid face. We will revisit the topic later. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be? Thailand. Where many children are in need of medication and surgeries. I would love to be able to go and help in any way possible. Why was he so sweet and handsome and not mine? I needed to remember that. I was not Isabella. What, done questioning me already? That was painless. He joked. He is not mine. His wife was dead and I was just fucking with his mind. There were people on the bus. What happened to them? Where are their bodies again? I did my best not to cry. My sister's body, his wife, could have been God knows where. They burned. He whispered, most of them were unrecognizable. And no one claimed anything or anyone because Isadora wouldn't be missed, she was just a ghost. My Daho, birth certificate, social, were all in my bag on that bus. Everything that proved I was alive was ash. Rubbing my eyes together, I once again tried to breathe. But it felt like everything was so loud. Jasper, how much longer? She's already stressed and emotional. She needs to rest. Edward whispered, and it no longer sounded like he was speaking into the microphone. Just a few more seconds. Her brain waves are all over the place and she remembers the accident vividly, but it's like her brain erased most of all her past memories and started recording from then on. I've read about this once. Just get it over with. I don't like seeing her like this. What is going on between you two? I've never seen you smile and laugh so much with her being within a foot of you, and yet here I am. I don't know. Okay, she's just different. She actually needs me, likes me. So just hurry up. He whispered before clicking something too loud. Bella, are you okay? Yeah, what did you just press? He paused before speaking, then the button for the microphone. You heard it. You mean it wasn't on the whole time? No, he said with a little edge in his voice. Did you hear us? Shit. No, I think there was just a buzzing that happened when you hit the button. Alright, you two, I'm done. Jasper cut in. The bed slid out just as Edward came into the room. Rushing over to me, he held onto my side, helping me swing over my feet. The moment his hand grazed my back, I found myself leaning into him. I couldn't help it. You okay? He whispered so close to my ear I shivered. Yeah, I will be if you stop asking. I brushed my hair behind my ear just as Jasper came in with 2 scans in his pale hands. What's wrong with me, doc? Other than the fact that I'm a lying thief. His back strengthened just like it did in my room, and all the emotion wiped from his face as he prepared himself. Our brains are always trying to protect us when we go through trauma. Sometimes our brains lock out memories in order to protect our mental health. However, in your case, I believe your mind did the opposite. When you spoke about the bus, your cerebrum lit up and your heart rate quickened. It's the same thing that happened when you spoke about Edward and your children. Your brain went into shock, recording everything in front of you and only holding on to the most important memories. Will she get her past memories back? Edward asked him, taking hold of my hand. He seemed worried, and not in the way you would think. Edward, you know just as well as I do, the brain works differently for everyone. She may only need to go home and it will come back to her. Or she may never remember small details and will have to relearn them. I would suggest not to do any heavy lifting, not that you could anyway. He smiled sadly, pointing down at my leg. Don't let the light fool you, doc. I'm as healthy as a horse, which is such a weird saying. I felt awkward. It was like this whole cover story has been laid out for me, begging me to take it, this whole new life within my grasp. Tell my father we're heading home. I don't want her to stay here any longer. Edward said, helping me into the chair. Your father, I asked, why not just blame my cerebrum? Yay, Carlisle, he's the chief of surgery, which means. I know what the chief of surgery is, Edward. I laughed, just as my stomach grumbled, dang it. I was just a mess. Edward smiled, let's get you some lunch and my mother is coming over. Apparently Alice called her, freaked out about something. She was freaked out, she was the WD something. Edward. There was something wrong with me. There had to be. Yesterday, I was ready to finally cave, give her the divorce she so badly wanted and just take the kids. I was beyond done with her. She was childish, selfish, cold, a black hole that just kept sucking the life out of me and our family. I was done. I had it planned, my big fuck you speech, and then Xavier called me wondering when she would come home. He begged to talk her and his begging broke me wide open. I couldn't help but beg her for him, beg for the both of them. She didn't even know how old they were, what kind of mother didn't know how old her children were, who didn't speak to them, and yet as I stared across at the woman drinking her soup right out of the bowl, I couldn't help but blush. Who was she? One moment she was the thing of my nightmares, and then she was the woman I couldn't help but laugh at, as she ate in the middle of the hospital cafeteria. She didn't even stop to breathe. First with the bread, then yogurt, next the soup, and then all the damn apple juice available to her. Her bladder would hate her later. I wasn't sure what was most shocking, the fact that she was actually eating, her house was eating. The Isabella before the crash ate only salads, nuts, and drank Fuji water. Bella post-accident was just different, and I felt like a dick for enjoying it. I felt like it wouldn't last much longer before all her anger, depression, and darkness came back. However, I wanted to savor the moment now before it did. I want our kids to savor it. Why are you staring at me? She pouted, wrinkling her nose at me. I don't know what possessed me to do it, I felt so at ease with her. And so I dipped my finger in my yogurt and dabbed it on the tip of her nose. Hey! Stop wasting food. She snapped, grabbing the yogurt from me. Geez, aren't you full? Are you making a reference to my weight? She frowned, wiping her nose. Of course not, you're beautiful. I paused when she blushed. I've never seen you blush so often. Well thanks, you're not so bad either, green eyes. She winked, picking up the yogurt again before leaning back. Can I eat this without judging? Sure, I shrugged, but everyone else may. Her brown hair whipped around as she looked over the tables and fake flowers in the cafeteria at all the eyes watching her and waiting for the drama.
Do I even want to know what I did to make everyone hate me? Her question, once again, just shocked me.
Everything was gone for her. She didn't remember screaming at me in the halls only a month ago, calling me everything from a spineless piece of shit to a cocksucking bitch. It was like she had hit the reset button and found a soul. Don't worry about it. She simply raised an eyebrow and bit her spoon before nodding. There's no point in digging up the past. Either you remember it or not.
Was I really this bad of a person? She looked so lost in her own mind, and once again I saw the softness in her eyes, the way she looked at me.
No, just sick, but I think you're better now. I should be trying to help her remember. But I didn't want to. I was selfish and never wanted her to remember. Taking her hand, I just enjoyed how it felt holding her soft skin. She must have enjoyed it as much as I did as we sat there like two love-struck teens at a diner, just messing with each other's hands.
It was surreal, but I was happy for the first time in years. I was happy just sitting across from my wife.
Dear God, let her never remember. I was just going to roll with this until something or someone told me I couldn't. This was my second chance, this was all of our second chances. Why not take it? There you are, Edward. A formal voice broke out behind me, forcing me to rise to my feet. There stood my mother, dressed in pearls and black slacks like she always did when she came to the hospital. Mom, you're early. I was worried how Bella would take all this at once. I heard about Isabella here and I had to come and see her. She looked Bella dead in the eyes and I wasn't sure what was going on. She hated Bella. She would never say it, but I knew it. She was the one who told me daily about how big of a mistake she was. Edward, go get me some coffee. She demanded, taking my seat. Bella looked up at me, begging me not to go, and I felt the urge to kiss her before I left. I knew my mother wanted a moment with her and she wouldn't leave until she got it. I will be right back. I stated to them both, but neither of them seemed focused on me. Isabella. I wasn't sure what to say. I really wished he had left me with the beautiful woman with wavy brown hair and warm hazel eyes. Rubbing the pearls around her neck, she glanced and frowned. Alice was right, you aren't Isabella. I can explain. There is no need, Isadora. I know all about you. Really, that's your defense? Come on, Isadora, you can at least pretend like you have no idea what I'm talking about. The woman with the wavy brunette hair and bright green eyes sat up properly in her chair, her manicured hands folded on the table, simply smiling at me as if I weren't lying to her family. I'm so sorry. Was all I managed to whisper, fighting back the tears that were building at the bottom of my eyes. You're not even going to ask me how I know, she asked, rubbing her pearls around her neck.
Glancing over at Edward, who stood at the far end of the sea of bright white tables that made up the cafeteria, I noticed he was talking to a cute nurse. In his hands was his mother's coffee.
I took comfort in the fact that he looked like he was trying his best to escape her. Does it matter? You're going to tell him, right? Oh, it matters, which is why I'm not going to tell him a damn thing. He never listens to me anyway. My eyes met green ones and I looked for any hints that she was only messing with me. But she was completely serious and oddly calm. Really? Really, what Edward asked as he arrived at the edge of our table too quickly. Esm frowned. You came back faster than I thought. So with a snap of her fingers he froze. He stood as motionless as a statue, and it wasn't just him. Looking up slowly I noticed it was everyone. People with spoons frozen only inches away from people's lips, others mid-drink or even blink. Oh, this smells heavenly. Esm moaned, taking the coffee from Edward's hands. I poked his hand quickly before pulling back. What did you do? I stopped time. She said, licking her lips. What? Not permanently, just enough time so that we can finish this conversation. Who would have thought hospitals had such good coffee? No wonder I can never get Carlisle to drink my mud. I'm sorry, can we rewind and stop at you stopping time? Holy shit, what the fuck was going on? I couldn't believe it, and yet I was living it. Would you like to, or are you just being dramatic? She tilted her head to the side, her wavy hair just falling off her shoulder. It must have been witchcraft keeping her looking like that. I ran my hands through my hair. What's going on? Is this like Groundhog Day? I stole my sister's life, so now I'm going crazy. She grinned. Crazy? No, I don't think so. Just kept in the dark for far too long. So enlighten me, please. Who are you? What are you? What is going on? Before I break. Breathe for 1. 2. I am Esm Cullen, your godmother. I happen. My godmother, I wasn't sure how I should be feeling. Where the fuck have you been? Her eyes narrowed and she sat up straighter. Her whole demeanor changed. You would be wise not to curse at me, Isadora, because I'm not afraid to take you over the knee. Do it then, because it's a valid question. You knew who I was, so why didn't I know who you were? Why was I all alone? Who am I? Why didn't anyone ever come for me? Sighing, she placed her cup on the table. Isadora, you're a witch, don't you dare interrupt me. I opened my mouth to speak, but she gave me the look.
The look I saw mothers give their kids in the parks, the one that said shut up, or you will not like what happens.
I'm a witch. My daughter Alice is a witch, and your sister was a witch, though she didn't know it either. Your mother didn't want either of you to ever know. My mother. I felt a knot in my throat build and hope swarm all over my heart. She nodded. Renee Swan. She was a witch as well. We belonged to the same coven. She was a very strong witch, and I knew any child she gave birth to would be powerful twins, equal power. That was until we found out you would be born on the last new moon of the year. Was you refereed to her in the past tense? And just like that, the hope was gone. Once again she nodded, spinning the cup in her hand. Most fairy tales are wrong, but often have a stick of truth. For witches the full moon does give us power. You and Isabella were the first twins ever born on the last new moon. All the power lingering in the air would find its way to you too. Renee didn't make it through the birth. We killed her. No. She grabbed my hand. Your mother loved you both, and if it was you or her, she would choose you both 10 times over any day of the week. This is insane. I don't get it. Why were Isabella and I separated? Because one of you carried positive power and the other negative. When you two were together, you both literally pushed the other away. The walls would shake, and with each passing day the energies at war with each other made it harder and harder to hide who you really were. I dropped Isabella at the church and you at the state. When you two met on the bus again, all of the power you've both buried exploded. I felt it. Any witch in the area should have felt. Wait, you're telling me I killed my mother and I killed my sister? I laughed through the tears, grabbing the side of my head. I murdered the only family I had. Isadora. No. I don't want to hear it. Go away. I whispered. It was like the world around me was caving in. Isadora, I need you to calm down, okay? No. You don't get to tell me to calm down. You just told me I was a witch. Not just any witch, but a mother and sister killing witch. Did I kill my father too? I didn't know who he was. She sighed. Great. Isadora. I know this is a lot. But there is a reason why you are here. Isabella found herself back in Seattle years ago, and so have you. Yeah, so I can hurt someone else. Or maybe to find happiness in the midst of tragedy. What happened to Isabella was an accident, but you have a second chance. I swear I won't leave you again. Witches are. Stop it. I don't want to hear any more of your voodoo crap. I'm done. I'm telling Edward the truth and I'm leaving. I yelled, slamming my hand on the table, which caused the whole room to shake and the cafeteria full of statues to come alive.
They didn't just move, they shook just as violently as the table I slammed, the windows around us shattering, men, women, children who were once all frozen, slid under tables for cover.
The lights flickered like angry lightning bugs before a few shattered. Earthquake. It's an earthquake. Earthquake. Grabbing hold of the both of us, Edward pulled me out of my chair into his arms, and under the table holding onto me everything fell over. Esme looked at me quickly before grabbing my hand. Stop. She mouthed over to me. I didn't know how. I didn't want any of this, I just want to wake up from this nightmare. Please stop. Please stop. And it did, the shaking under us just stopped. Are you okay? Edward asked, still not letting go. I wasn't sure how to respond though. Help. Someone please help. Please help. The voices around us cried out as Edward helped me out from underneath the gum-infested table and helped his mother back into her seat. Are you alright? He asked her. She could only smile and nod, brushing her hair back. Yes, go help them. He looked to me and I found the will to smile, nodding for him to go. I'll call Xavier and Sasha, go and help. I will be back as soon as I can, and Mom can help get you back to your room.
The hospital is still structurally sound, so just stay there unless told otherwise. All right, he replied quickly, then he leaned down to kiss me but froze, cupping my cheek instead. I promise I will be there as soon as I can. Okay, be safe.
Maneuvering through the small wreckage, he transformed in a split second into a doctor, taking off his white coat and using it as a makeshift pillow for a woman to lay her head on. He just hovered over her, barking orders at anyone that was not stunned too much to make a move. We need to get you back to your room, Esme whispered, taking a hold of the back of my chair. Everywhere I looked there were doctors, all of them relatively calm, rushing to the side of anyone who needed them, and there were those who did badly. I didn't. Shocked. Dora, it's alright. I shouldn't have told you so much so soon. The hospital is going to make sure everyone is okay and stable before we are allowed to leave. This is not your fault, worst has happened to people like us. I promise I will help you, I won't leave you again. I wasn't sure what she wanted me to say to that, but all I could do was nod. I hurt people. It's what I did. I always knew it, and now this was proof. My head hurt so badly, all I wanted was to close my eyes and sleep. I need to go. Mommy! Yelled Sasha once we had gotten to my room. Beside her sat Alice, her blue and black hair held high in a ponytail and her sleeves rolled. Before she or Asm could stop her, the small bundle charged my chair and hopped on top of me. Mommy, did you feel it? The ground kept shaking. Vera was scared. Sasha grinned brightly, she didn't seem fazed at all. I was not. Xavier pouted, I just didn't like it. I'm sorry, sweetheart, but it's over now and it won't happen again. What are you both doing back so soon? Were you here the whole time? They demanded to be brought back here. Luckily, we weren't on the road when it hit. They missed you and Edward. Alice smiled, folding a small jacket on the bed. Yes, Mommy, we missed you. Did you miss us? Xavier asked while playing with my hair. Kissing his hands, I tried not to cry. I hadn't ever really been missed before, of course. I missed you both. Who wants to push me to the bed? Me. They yelled, sliding down off me in order to push Esme out of the way and take control of the chair. Slowly, I laughed as they both grabbed a handle and tried to push. Both Esme and Alice gave me looks. I figured Esme must have already filled her in, but I didn't want anything to do with either of them. So when Alice tried to reach for me in order to help me onto the bed, I pulled away. Daho rather walk on a broken foot than think of the massive amounts of paranormal shit going on around them, around all of us. So guys, tell me everything that's on your mind. Daho rather listen to a child ramble for hours than deal with what just happened today. I really hoped everyone was alright and I didn't have any more blood on my hands. This was not what I planned, and yet watching their little faces as they babble had to be the most relaxing thing I had ever experienced. Sasha was the talker while Xavier seemed more content to just listen. He liked my hair though. He sat in my lap relaxing against my chest and playing with the ends of my hair. Everything would have been perfect if it weren't for which one and which two hovering in the corner and Edward. Edward, how bad my father drive?
Call out Cullen, aka the chief, asked, glancing around the air, which was thankfully less bloody than I was expecting.
So far reports are saying it was only a magnitude 4. Beds 1, 2 and 5 all have blows to the head. I'm ordering CAT scans, but we're backlogged. I have 8 people with serious blast damage to their eyes and head in line for surgery. The rest have minor cuts and bruises. We just got a call that 4 ambulances are on their way, with caution that there will most likely be more. All in all, it's a good day to be a trauma surgeon and a bad day to be a husband. I sighed, grabbing my gloves, as did he, following me out to wait for the incoming ambulances. How is she? He asked. This is not the best time to have small talk, Dad. Yeah, it is. Get it off your chest before you carry it into surgery. I need you focused. I've been a doctor for about 7 years now. You would think he would stop treating as though I just got out of medical school. Well, drive. Cullen.
For the sake of fuck, other than the fact that she was in a bus accident, suppressing almost all of her past memories, and experienced an earthquake all in the same week. She's good, chief, thanks for asking.
What are we talking about? Emmett asked, stepping out into the cold with us. Isabella. Oh.
I'm sorry, were you both somewhere else when the earthquake hit? Why, oh why, out of all the damn hospitals I could have worked in, did I choose to work with my brother and father?
Luckily, before he could add another word, the first ambulance pulled up, and never was I so happy to see Tanya Denala's blonde head as she opened the doors to the back. What do we got? I asked her, helping the gurney down. Gzach to the back. She replied.
Gzach, there was too much blood to see where it was all coming from, but a gunshot wound to the back was not what I was expecting.
Jack here was shooting with his wife when the quake hit and the gun went off and hit him. She explained. Emmett, he's all yours, so make him pretty too. I could tell he wanted to flip me off, but instead he just took his patient like a good little plastic surgeon. So are we sure she accidentally hit him? An earthquake was a good excuse. She laughed. I bet you $100 she did it on purpose. Deal. I grinned just as the next one pulled up. This was going to be a long motherfucking day, and I wasn't even supposed to be in. 2 lost kids, 3 back-to-back surgeries, and 4 newborns later, I was more than ready to die. I hadn't even realized how much time had passed until the revolving doors of the earth finally stopped spinning. I wasn't even sure if I still had the soles on the bottom of my heels anymore. The hall to Bella's room never felt so far away. I was half tempted to steal the wheelchair off of the older woman passing me. Edward. Oh dear God, no. Sighing, I turned back around to find Tanya with a coffee in hand. You look like crap. She laughed, handing it to me. Thanks, but I'm going to lay off of the coffee until I can get some shut-eye. Brushing her hair behind her head, she tucked the coffee to her chest. How's your wife? She was in pretty bad shape when I brought her in. I thought about it for a moment, and I didn't even remember seeing her when I got that call. All I saw was her bleeding, not moving. Edward. How? I'm sorry. Bella is fine. She's beat up, as you can imagine, but she's slowly healing. That's great. If you ever need anything, please call me. I'm great with kids too. She smiled, biting her lip. Thanks, Tanya, we will keep that in mind. I really should go. Thanks for all your hard work today. Yeah, of course. She smiled before backing down the hall and turning to leave. I watched her disappear around the corner before turning, only to find Emmett standing at the nurse's station biting into his apple. How is it possible that you're my younger brother and you have no game? He shook his head at me. I have no clue what you're talking about, but I'm too tired to care, so. Bro, she was hitting on you. Bro, I'm married. He snorted, and I wanted to beat the shit out of his face. Yeah, he knew in the past my marriage was crap, but he didn't have to be an ass. You haven't seen her, she's different. Again he snorted, and again my eyebrow twitched. Why I ever bothered talking to him or how he had so much energy was beyond me. You've been down this road before and she never changes. You know, Emmett, I've had a long fucking day. I just want to rest and have my time off. So we can continue this conversation in 2 weeks. I couldn't get away from him quick enough. The moment I reached her door, I closed it behind me, leaning against it. Finally, peace. Are you okay? Damn it. Turning around, there, on a separate bed next to her, were Sasha and Xavier curled up and snoring. It was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. Just being near them made me smile. Yeah, I'm perfect. I whispered, walking over to them. Like always, Sasha had her thumb in her mouth while Xavier was holding onto the bear in his hands. Brushing back their hair, I listened to them breathe for a moment. I watched their chest rise and fall. After a day like today, they had no idea how much that meant to me. Would you like to lay down? I have space. She whispered, and for the first time in so long, I turned to her, and once again I was hit with that feelings. I stared at the spot she had made for me, and I wanted so badly to lay next to her. Or you can place them with me. I know today was really rough. I'm so sorry. She whispered, but I had no clue why. Taking off my coat, I dropped it at the edge of the bed before laying down next to her. It felt odd. She and I hadn't shared a bed over a year. Leaning back slowly, she didn't breathe, just stayed completely still. It was like she was afraid to make any sudden movements. If it weren't so funny, I would have thought she lost it. What are you doing? I smiled, shifting slightly in order to see her. You're putting off awkward vibes, and I don't know what to do, so I'm just trying not to make any sudden movements. I'm awkward because this is the first time we've been in bed, especially a bed this small, together for months. Never mind, I'm just going to be quiet and hope I don't face a tornado next. From your lips to God's ears. How are you? I haven't. I'm fine, Edward, please don't worry about me. I don't deserve it. The people you helped today deserved it. The sadness in her eyes hurt me, it reminded me too much of the girl I had taken and broken. I worry about you because you're my wife. Despite everything, you're still my wife and that alone is enough for you to deserve it. So again, how are you really? She looked at me for the longest time before she grabbed me by the hair and pulled me to her lips. I take it back, now I was ready to die. Moaning into her mouth, I kissed her lips, dying for more of her. She tasted like fresh strawberries on the hottest day of summer, and the more I had of her, the more I wanted. Any thought of sleep was far from my mind the moment her tongue was battling with mine. I cursed the fact that we had to breathe, which forced us to break apart, but I wouldn't let her more than an inch away from me. Holy shit, what did I do, and how can I do it again, was all I could get out as I sucked in air. She blushed, shrugging as she pulled away, and I fought hard with myself to let go of her. You're kind to me even though I feel as though I don't deserve it. I wasn't sure how else to say thank you, so I just rolled with it. She laughed, lying back down. Lying next to her, we both just stared at the lights above. This is the most confusing week of my life, she whispered. You and me both. I replied, trying to ignore her hand in mine. Tomorrow I was thinking we should drop by the house, pick up some things and just head up to the cabin. Have some time away, you, me and the kids, is that okay? Am a horrible camper, is that okay? As long as you're with us, it's okay. Okay, and Edward. Yay. You're a really great kisser. I'm only as good as my partner. I didn't need to look at her to know she was blushing. Taking her hand, we both lay there listening to Sasha and Xavier snore as though it was our own personal lullaby. In an odd way, I felt like a teenager again. I watched them through the rear view mirror, trying my best not to grin too much. Be too happy, because I was still waiting for the other shoe to drop or to wake up. There she sat, my wife, in between my children as they slept. Her broken foot was on my armrest as she kissed the top of Xavier's head. We're here, I whispered, pulling her from her daze. Her eyes snapped open before her jaw dropped as she looked at our house. Do you remember it? No, it's huge and so beautiful. I looked back at our 3-story house, not sure whether or not to tell her she hated our house. She wanted something bigger. Should we sleep here and then take them in the morning? She looked at both Sasha and Xavier. Yeah, we can just leave in the morning after breakfast and a hot shower. No point rushing them, right? Nodding and putting the Audi in park, I stepped out as she opened the door. I got it, Bella. It's not like she could move anyway. Grabbing a hold of Sasha, she wrapped her tiny arms around me, cuddling up against my neck. God, she knew how to make my day 10 times brighter. Can you get both of them, she asked, lifting Xavier onto her lap, still clenching to her dress. Again, I had to refrain from reminding her that I had been doing it for the past month. Twisting sideways, I bent down for him, lifting him with one hand before holding them both to my chest. Well, I stand corrected. She laughed, reaching into the front seat for her crutches. If you wait a few minutes, I can. Edward, I'm fine, really, thank you though. Shocking as it was, she managed to pull herself from the car and stand on her own foot with ease, as though she had done it hundreds of times before. Why are you staring at me like that, she asked, but all I could do was shake my head and nod over to the couch. Can you get the keys from my back pocket, I asked her. There was a little pause before I felt her small hands reaching into my pocket. It was wrong, but I loved when she touched me. I could have gotten my keys out before I grabbed the kids, and I usually did, but for some reason I wanted to feel her again, even if it was only for a quick second. She hobbled over to the front door but froze when she didn't realize what key it was. She looked guilty and I didn't understand why. It wasn't her fault, she couldn't remember. It's the one with the blue tip. Biting her bottom lip, she nodded, pushing open the door. I waited for her to go in before I did. However, she just stopped at the front door. Holy shit, she whispered, glancing around. Bella. Sorry, she jumped back, letting us in. I didn't think anything looked holy shit worthy. The grand double staircase beside them, the first living room and the guest dining room, which came in handy for Thanksgiving. Let's take the elevator. Oh yeah, the elevator, of course. She laughed at herself. I would check her temperature later, maybe she's having a panic attack again. The elevator was right behind the stairs, and with Sasha and Xavier in my arms, she fit in easily and we rode up to the 3rd floor. By the time we reached the room, my arms were burning and I was more than happy to lay Sasha on her princess bed while Xavier slept on spaceships. Once again I was shocked watching her kiss their foreheads. She wasn't herself, or maybe between all the haze and depression this was her. I mean, when I married her she was kind of like this, but even then she wasn't this was different. We should turn in, we have a long morning ahead of us. I'll take you to your room. My room, she whispered when I closed the door. Sighing, I nodded, yes Isabella, your room. We haven't shared a bed in months and I'm tired and I don't want to explain, or worse, wake up in the morning with you in my bed and your memories back. The moment it came out of my mouth, I wanted to take it back. I didn't know what happened. Shit. Shit. Bella. It's okay, you've had a long couple of days, would you mind pointing me in the right direction? At least she didn't yell, she didn't even look calmly, she just hunched over trying to readjust herself on one foot. Bella, I'm so sorry. Edward, I'm sorry too, but I'm tired, so where do I go? Fuck me. Damn it, I was such a fucking asshole. I wasn't sure what to say to her, and the walk down the hall never felt so long. I don't want us to go to bed angry, I stated when she reached for the door handle. I'm not angry, she whispered, turning back to me, a little confused. My armpits are sore, but I'm not angry. Bella, I'm sorry. I'm just confused and worried, but that's not an excuse at all. It's just, come in and lay down. She cut me off, opening the door, revealing our king-size bed. She didn't look around, she just hopped over to the bed and dropped the crutches on the side before falling back on the bed. She looked like she had just fallen on a cloud and was ready to drift away. Closing the door behind her, I took off my shirt, dropping it on our couch before laying right beside her. It felt weird being in bed with her. Yes, we had been in bed during the hospital, however, this was our bed. You're confused, she whispered. Yeah. You're so different, but still you. And I worry that someday you're going to wake up and remember you hate this life. That you want it out. Sasha, Xavier, I wouldn't be able to handle it. She placed her hand on my cheek. I'm not going anywhere, Edward. I know I've let you down in the past, but please give me a chance, it won't be same. Was it odd that I believed her? She had lied so many times before, and yet the look in her eyes told me she really believed she could be different. I wanted to believe with her. Kissing her hand, I just watched to see how she would react. But she just leaned into me. I wanted to kiss her like she kissed me at the hospital, so I did. I grabbed the side of her face and I just pulled her to me, kissing her lips softly. Or at least I intended to kiss them softly, but the moment I felt hers on mine, something happened. She grabbed a hold of me, kissing me harder, forcing me to grab a hold of her. Conscious of her leg, I rolled on top of her, resting in between her legs. I kissed down over to her neck. Ugh, Edward. She moaned, rubbing against me. Bella, please, I have to have you. I murmured into her ear. I hadn't been this close to her or anyone in what felt like years. Pulling the halter of her dress down, I almost came right there at the sight of her breast just begging me for my lips. What you waiting for, Doc? Good fucking question. Cupping them both in my hands, I flicked her nipples, grinning when she shivered under me. Fuck. She hissed when I took them into my mouth. Sucking hard, my hand traveled down between her legs where she was already wet for me. She grabbed me through my pants, forcing me to let go of her nipple. Baby, I gasped as she played with me. I was so hard it fucking hurt, I had to have her already. Mommy! Xavier knocked for me. Hide the door. No. Fuck. Mommy, can I come in? Edward. Damn it. For the love of fuck, man, pulling away from her almost killed me, but I didn't have a choice. She tied up her dress, waiting for me to adjust myself. As if such a thing was possible. Of course, sweetheart, come here, she said to him. He pulled the door with his stuffed animal in one hand before running onto the bed. Thank you for knocking, that was very good. She hugged him, sliding up to the pillows with him. It would have been better if he hadn't needed to knock at all. Like she could read my mind, she glared at me. Hey buddy, why aren't you in bed? I asked, sitting back on the bed next to them both. He yawned. I was scared Mommy won't be there in the morning. Can I sleep here, please? No. Of course, she smiled, tucking him into our bed. His eyes snapped shut the moment he hit the pillows. When you're a teenager, I will so have my revenge for this. Edward. She hissed, smacking my shoulder. Can you go check on Sasha? I feel bad she's alone. Have kids, they said. It would be great, they said. Until they cock-blocked you. Sighing, I got up. Even with how frustrated I was still happy my family was together and I was ecstatic. Pulling out my phone, I made sure the alarm was back on before entering their room. Sasha tended to snore and I knew that she got it from me. But for some reason, hearing her was amazing. I didn't like her sleeping alone. I simply just laid on Xavier's bed. I was so close to having my wife tonight, but I would have her soon, and that made it just a little bit easier, a little bit. Bella. Mommy. Good morning. I almost jumped out of my damn skin when they both yelled at me. Brushing my hair back, I looked all over the room quickly before my eyes fell on the kids holding a tray for me, with Edward standing right behind them. Guys, you didn't have to do this, I gasped, taking the tray of pancakes, bacon, eggs and orange juice. We wanted to, Mommy, Daddy said. That's how we welcome you home. Sasha grinned, sitting to my right. Yeah, welcome, Mommy. Xavier laughed, sitting to my left. I just stared at them both through the tears that wouldn't fall. Pulling them both to me, I kissed their heads. You know I love you both, right? I whispered to them. Yes, mommy, but why are you crying? Sasha reached up to wipe my face. Because mommy is so happy to have you both. Stupid tears. They wouldn't stop.
Okay guys, go make sure your things are packed, mommy and I will be in there in a few minutes. Got it, Edward said to them, for my sake.
They didn't even blink, running out of our room like little bunnies. Are you okay? He asked me, taking a seat beside me. Yeah, this was so sweet, thank you. I laughed, trying to wipe my tears. However, he beat me to it, and just like Sasha, he wiped my tears. Thank you for last night, he whispered, brushing my lips with his finger. You don't have to thank me, Edward. I wanted to. I wanted to sleep with my sister's husband. It was so hard for me to even remember who I was anymore. It was so easy to just be Bella the mom, Bella the wife, and even Bella the witch. This was everything I ever dreamed of, and I had it. I wanted it too. He smiled, like really smiled, his eyes light up, and the feeling of his hands on my face had my whole skin warm. He leaned in, and the moment he did, I didn't wait. I just kissed him, and it would have led to more had it not been for the damn tray in my lap. You should eat, or I can pack it up for you. Also, there's a cast sleeve in the bathroom to help you take a shower. He grinned, pulling back and walking over to a very large closet. The first thing I saw was a long row of shoes. How far is the cabin? I asked him, as I take a bite of the bacon. I hadn't changed since I got my dress in the hospital, but it wasn't the first time I had ever slept in the same clothes. In fact, I only had 3 pairs of clothes I washed in bathroom sinks. 30 minutes if we don't hit traffic. Do you want your lace-up boots or the pull-up ones? He yelled back. Lace-up boots or the pull-up ones? I tried not to laugh. Edward, I don't think matters. You can pull anything, I don't mind. I'm sure Sasha and Xavier need more help than I do. I could hear him snicker. Sasha and Xavier already have things at the cabin, and they have a bag I've already packed for them. They love it so much, I try to take them every few weeks. They most likely are trying to pick out a toe. When he came out with a bag he stuffed with shirts, pants and sweaters, I realized he took care of everyone, me, his, our kids, people he didn't even know. He just gave and gave, but who the hell took care of him? No wonder he was stressed out to his wits. Biting my lips, I thought about all the things he did for me, everything he did for everyone else. Pushing the tray to the side, I stood, holding onto the edge of the bed, and dropped my dress. Edward. Yeah, he said, not looking up from the bag in front of him. But when I didn't say anything, he looked up at me. It's an amazing feeling when you can make a man's jaw fall open. His eyes traveled up my legs, stared at my vagina before working their way to my breasts. Fuck. He gasped, frozen in place. I'm going to take a shower. If you can check on Xavier and Sasha, maybe you can join. He was gone, running out the door like a damn madman, and I just laughed. Hopping over to the bathroom, I was floored by how big it was. Everything was a cream-colored marble with the fancy bowl sinks you saw in 5-star restaurants. Grabbing the sleeve by the sink, I pulled it onto my cast before turning on the shower. Stepping into the water, I almost died. I hadn't had a hot shower like this in months. Okay, we have 27 minutes of Dora the Explorer, Edward yelled, running into the bathroom. Brushing my hair back, I watched him pull his clothes off, trying my best not to laugh. He was desperate. I wasn't sure if he wanted this as much as he actually did it. My eyes fell on every single one of his abs before finally staring at his cock, already erect. It looked like he could break me, Jesus Christ. When he stepped into the shower, he pulled me to him, lifting me up with one hand, pressing me up against the marble. I've missed you, he muttered into my neck. He didn't miss me, he missed Bella, and I was Isadora. What's wrong? He whispered, staring into my eyes. Shaking my head, I smiled, kissing him back. I've missed you too. Grinning, he kissed the mounds of my breast. God, I can't believe this is happening. We're losing Dora minutes, Edward. I whispered, grabbing his hair as I kissed him, rubbing against him, begging him for what we both needed. He entered me slowly, inch by inch. I felt him in me, and damn did it feel good. God, you feel amazing, he whispered into my lips as he was running his fingers through my hair. No man had ever made me feel like this. It was like he was worshipping every part of me. He was so slow and loving. I expected him to just want to fuck me like other men. In, out, done. As quickly as possible. But he kissed my lips, my cheeks, my nose, all over my damn face as my legs squeezed around him. It was the cheesiest, romantic, novel type sex I had ever had. It was the type of thing that made people cry, and I couldn't understand it. Fuck, I can't. He moaned, fighting with everything he had not to come, but he couldn't. Shit, baby, I'm so sorry. No, baby. God, no, that felt amazing. I whispered, trying to lift his head, but he just shook me off slowly, lowering me to the ground. He scoffed, turning away from me, standing under the now warm water. Amazing, really, is this what we have come to? Edward, I wrapped my arms around the back of him, kissing his shoulder. Maybe amazing was the wrong word. Not every moment has to be mind-blowing, right? It was just great feeling you.
He reached back for my hands then kissed them. I'm going to make this up to you. Now get off that bad leg, it'll be out in a second.
Laughing, I grabbed the towel. Your bedside manner sucks, Doc. Watching him shower for a moment, I limped over to the counter and sat there, just enjoying how the soap drips down his body. Slut. My mind yelled at me. Yes, a small part of me felt bad, but even a bigger part of me was in too deep. I couldn't leave anymore. I didn't want to. If I had to lie, I would lie, but I couldn't give him or the kids up. Bella wanted me to do this, right? She wanted me to have her life. I wanted her life. Why the hell couldn't I have it? What are you thinking about? Edward asked, wrapping the towel around his waist as he shook the water from his head. Blushing, I watched the water droplets fall from his jaw. I'm excited to go to the cabin. Really, or are you just excited to be eyeing me? He grinned, stalking towards me like a tiger. That too. You are kind of sexy, I replied, reaching for him. He smiled like he wasn't used to hearing that, at least not from me. He pulled the sleeve off my cast before turning to me. Running my hands through his hair, he moaned. Dad. Xavier won't stop making noses at me. Sasha screamed at the top of her lungs. Oh. Tell me, are doing this to me on purpose, he groaned. What being children, how dare they, I laughed, pulling the towel around me just a little bit tighter. Sasha, stop it. That's mine. Xavier screamed back. No, it's mine. Rushing to the door, he pulled it open, yelling, if both of you don't cut it right now, we aren't going anywhere. Hey, don't punish all of us. I pouted. You gotta back me up here or they will divide and conquer. He winked back at me. I hate you. I hate you more. They yelled. Sighing, he pulled his dark robe from the back of the door before walking out, but I didn't want him to go alone. Pulling my robe from the back of the door, I limped, holding on to anything I could as my crutch until I could reach my crutches. I took a deep breath before going down the hall. Thank God that running for the bus or from rats or from thugs kept me shape, or I would be on the floor. It was funny how that was only a few days ago. It felt like a whole other world life. And in a way it was. You guys are siblings, twins. Edward kneeled in front of the two who wouldn't look at each other with their arms crossed. No one understands each other like you do. No one will ever have each other's backs like you two. There will come a day when one of you will really need each other, and it would be horrible if you hate each other. I've needed Auntie Alice so many times. So hug out and both of you say sorry. Sighing, they give each other a hug before turning back around. Mommy and I are going to get dressed and then we will leave. No more fighting, okay? They didn't answer. Guys, no one is leaving today if we are angry. That includes making Daddy angry. Say you're sorry. I said to them. I'm sorry. Xavier muttered. I'm sorry too. Sasha whispered, and I knew that was the best we would get out of them. Edward kissed them both before turning back to me. He frowned, noticing me still on my crutches. Pulling me to him, he lifted me up. Edward. You've been on it too long. You shouldn't be on it at all. He stated, taking me back to the room after placing my crutch against the wall. Like I said, he took care of everyone and I was going to take care of him and the kids. I really wanted to. Wiping the steam of the bathroom mirror, I simply stared at myself. I was waiting for the disgust to fade. She had been dead for a week. Just 1 week, and no one knew. There was no one to mourn and remember her. Even her children didn't get the chance. I wanted to think that's what she wanted. She didn't want them to be sad because that is all she had ever made them feel. But I was biased. I wanted whatever would make me feel better. I wanted anything that would make taking over her life be the right thing. I could excuse loving her children. Any woman would want for her children to be loved. But I could not excuse the way I acted with Edward. She had only been gone a week and I had already kissed him upon so many other things. What was worse was the fact that I hadn't even thought about it. I felt attracted to him, to this life, her life, my life. Did that make me a bad person? Bella. Edward knocked on the door and all of a sudden I felt the butterflies take flight in my stomach. Moving to the door, I placed my hand on it. This wasn't right. I should tell him. Bella, are you alright? You've been in there for a while. Do you, need anything? I needed him to be an asshole like all the other men I had met. I needed him to make me stop feeling this way. Opening the door a crack, I poked my head out and looked at him. He stared at me, confused and worried. Are you okay? Not even a little bit. I don't know what to say. I'm fine, Edward. He frowned and sighed. Are you having a dark day? It's fine if you are, but you just have to tell me, warn me. A what? A dark day, he repeated again, confused as to why I didn't get it before, remembering I knew nothing about myself. It's what you called your really bad days. The days you couldn't get out of bed, your depression. I was depressed, she was depressed. I didn't want him to think that about me. I don't think I'm having a dark day. I opened the door, stepping out of the bathroom and walked over to the bed. It's just I was thinking about the accident and the people. I feel guilty. He sat beside me softly, taking my hand. Bella, it wasn't your fault. Yes, it was. I whispered, looking into his eyes. There was a woman on the bus. She was driving me crazy. And I stood up ready to give her a piece of my mind. I think we distracted the bus driver.
One moment we were staring at each other, the next moment a seat was on top of her, crushing her.
I held onto her hand for as long as I could, but I left her, Edward. I left her to die on that bus. She had a family, a life. They all did. Some of them can't even be identified. No one remembers them, and here I am happy while they're gone. It just doesn't feel right. He looked at me for a moment before pulling me into his arms, and I just allowed him to. I wrapped my arms around his neck and rested my head under his chin. I never felt so safe in my whole life. I did it, Bella. I've seen more than my share of deaths. I've seen parents lose their kids, some accidentally killing them, and it never gets easier. Then I come home to Sasha and Xavier. I understand the guilt. It's what makes us human. We mourn them and we move on, or else we are just taking everything else for granted. I nodded, not saying anything else. That's what I wanted to hear, but was it true? Daddy. Xavier is being mean. Sasha yelled from behind the door. I swear they never stop. Edward groaned and I laughed, getting off of him. Give me a second to dress and he'll come out. I said, walking to the closet. I expected Sasha to yell once more or Edward to open the door, but there wasn't a sound. Hobbling back, with my towel wrapped tightly around me, I noticed that just like in the hospital, Edward was frozen. He looked as though he was just about to get up. Shit. Opening the bedroom door, I noticed Sasha angrily glaring at Xavier, her hand still in a fist at the door, while Xavier stood with his finger pulling down his eyelid and his tongue poking out at her. Everything was still. Even a fly that had entered the house stopped mid-flight. Double shit. Rushing back into the bedroom, I searched for Edward's cell phone. Where are you? I grumbled as I searched. Turning back to Edward, I slowly moved to him. I patted down his shirt when all of a sudden they moved again and I fell back. Jesus, Bella, are you alright? Edward asked, reaching for me. Mommy! Xavier and Sasha rushed to me. I laid on the ground for a moment before laughing. Oh, I was going crazy. Looking up as 3 pairs of eyes just looked at me. Xavier laughed and Sasha giggled while Edward just smiled at me. They must have thought I was crazy too. Are you all just going to laugh at me, or are you going to help me up? Mommy, you were laughing at yourself. Xavier grinned. Yay, Mommy. Edward said, lifting me off the ground before turning his gaze to them. And what did I tell you all about knocking? The door was just opened, Daddy. Sasha shrugged with her arms in the air. Edward didn't look like he believed her, but she was telling the truth and I didn't want her to be in trouble. Xavier, you need to stop making fun of your sister. I said, scratching my cast. He grinned and shook his head. I wasn't making fun. You were too. Sasha yelled at him. No. Yes. So you mean you weren't sticking out your tongue at her? And tell the truth. I said to him when Sasha ran into my arms. I picked her up, placing her on my lap. Xavier sighed and looked down. I stuck my tongue out at her. See? I told you. Sasha said proudly. Now say you're sorry and give me a hug. I told him. He ran into my arms and I shifted Sasha over to make room for him as well. I'm sorry, he said to her, and I kissed him as hard as I could on his cheek. Mommy! He rubbed it off and Sasha giggled, kissing his other one just as hard. Help, Daddy. Accept your punishment like a man, kid. Edward snickered, his arms crossed as he smiled at us. I smiled back at him before looking back at them. Now do you think you two can be good for Daddy while I get dressed? He's going to need helpers. Yep. They said. Edward came over, kissing my cheek before lifting them off of me. We will be right outside, he said, and I nodded. Oh, and where is your phone? I asked him quickly. He looked at me oddly but turned to the side, allowing me to reach into his pocket. For some reason I held my breath. Touching him did crazy things to me. Once the doors had closed, I fell back onto the bed and took a deep breath before searching through his contacts and dialing his mother. All it took was 3 rings. Hey sweetheart. It's me. I whispered. Isadora, she said softly. I heard a door close on her end. Are you alright? I did something, Esma. What did you do? Are Edward and the children? No, they are fine, they are setting up the camp. But right before I was talking to Edward and I did what you did at the hospital. You froze them. She sounded relieved. You're calling me to undo it? No. I already did. I think I'm not sure. I'm calling to make it stop. I don't understand what is going on, but I want it to stop. Bella, I can't. Your powers are active, and like any other muscle, they are stretching themselves. I groaned, standing up and hopping to the closet. Do you know how insane you sound right now? You called me, remember? I also remember a time where I didn't have to worry about causing bus explosions or earthquakes or freezing time. I hissed into the phone before calming down. I feel like you threw me into the deep end here. You can't just tell me I'm a witch and walk off. I also believed you wanted me to leave you alone, she said calmly. I frowned but didn't reply. Our lives are in the deep end. We were born here and we either sink or swim here. As I'm afraid I'm going to hurt someone. I know. I'm already working on a potion for it, and Alice has found your grimoire. We were going to wait until you came back from your little vacation, but we will have it delivered to you tomorrow. Potion grimoire what? She laughed. When Alice was a child she had the same problems as you. The potion will be like a child lock. You can't do any magic unless you truly want to. A grimoire is like a witch textbook. It tells you what you can and cannot do and how to do it. It's your spell book. I pulled the phone from my ear and just placed my head on the wall. Have I mentioned this was crazy? A witch textbook. What was next? Magical school. Take deep breaths, Bella, you will get the hang of it. Your mother was a natural and I'm sure you will be too. You should get going. Just be calm, you will be fine. You called me Bella. Because that is who you are now. Embrace it. Easier said than done. Was Isabella the negative? I asked her. She didn't say anything for a moment and sighed yes. Yes, she was, and because of that everything ate away at her. That makes me the positive, but I've never felt overly happy. That's because no one feels overly happy. There are more people in this world who live in darkness than in joy. Isabella was strong, but she was always meant to die. I know that does not bring you comfort. But she was miserable. Even when she tried to be happy, she was miserable. She felt everyone's pain all the time and did not know why. You didn't help her. I snapped. No one helped her. It wasn't her fault. She suffered and everyone just labeled her a bitch and walked away. There was nothing I could do to help her. I give her drinks to ease the pain. But there is not enough magic in this world to suppress who we really are. Just like no matter how bad you may feel for taking her place, you will always find the strength to smile or laugh. You will always have ornate joy. It is your blessing, it is your curse, and you can't fight it. With that she hung up. Well, that's shit. I muttered. I tried to think of every time I was pissed or sad. I wanted to prove her wrong. That I wasn't this reigning unicorn of joy. I had tough days. I got sad. But only ever for a day or two. I always thought it was naive of me to forgive people and just let things go. But I just felt like it took up too much energy to be pissed. I was a positive person, so what? But now I really was the positive. Edward. I felt relieved when she finally came out, and even more so when I noticed she had used her crutches. I got up to help her when she shook her head. I got it. I got it. Finish what you are doing, she said, moving to the chair at the edge of the lake. Wow, it's beautiful here. Her big, beautiful, brown eyes scanned the fall treetops. She took in the scent of the fresh lake and just seemed melt into it all. And here I thought you hated camping. I laughed, picking up the fish bait. Camping with the bugs and the worms, yep. Sitting in a nice chair and watching nature, now that I don't mind one bit, she said, sitting down in the lawn chair. She searched for Sasha and Xavier, who stood on the dock. Are they okay over there? Bella, they have life jackets bigger than them on and they can swim. They will be fine. I smiled, picking up the fishing rods. Seeing me, they both ran over. Mommy, I'm going to catch the biggest fish. Sasha grinned, taking her rod from me. My fish is going to be even biggest. Xavier proudly replied, stepping in front of his sister. I shook my head at them both. They would never stop, kind of how Alice and I were now that I thought about it. She became a high-powered lawyer, I had to be better and become a doctor. Okay. Okay. You both have me at the edge of my seat. Bella laughed, and once again my lips perked up at the sound. She seemed to be at peace with everything. Was it wrong that I hoped she never remembered who she was? Was I selfish? As bad as those memories were, there were still good times and times that I was wishing wouldn't come back either. Yo, Papa Bear, are you going to fish with them or will Mama Bear have to show you how it's done? Bella looked back at me. Papa Bear. Well, I don't know how Mama Bear can do that one-legged. I teased, kissing her cheek again as I walked with the kids to the water. This leg will heal, and when it does, my fish is going to be the biggest. She mocked, and I stuck my tongue out at her. Hey. Xavier pouted, why can Daddy do it but not me? Because I started, but shit, I wasn't sure what to say. Bella laughed, because Daddy and Mommy are married. Xavier frowned and nodded while I just mouthed niece. She nodded, leaning back into the chair as we walked into the water. I placed the bait for them and just like they always did, they whipped their arms as far back as possible before sending it forward again. Sasha even wobbled slightly but I held on to her. I heard Bella fight a laugh from behind us. When I looked back, she was pretending to bird watch. Now we wait. Sasha tried to copy my voice. I told them that all the time. But that only lasted 10 or 20 minutes before all I heard for the rest of the day was, "Daddy, I'm bored, can we just swim?" I caught one. Xavier yelled. How? Sasha frowned. Okay buddy, reel it in. He reeled like a madman and it was kind of funny. Taking his hand, I kneeled next to him. Slower, you don't want scare it? I said to him. Yeah, we want to eat it. He grinned and this time Bella did laugh. We reeled it in slower and slower until he pulled out a tiny blue fish. The fish flipped and flopped. Okay, take it up to the shore. I said to him, but he just frowned and shook his head. It's scared, Daddy, can I put it back? He asked me. Oh no. I knew that look. His big eyes, his mother's eyes, begged me. Yeah, I don't want to eat it. Sasha came around, can we keep it? Let me help you. Bella said, already out of her chair. Bella, your crutches. She ignored me, grabbing onto one of the containers I had brought and gathering up the water from the lake. Bring it over here. She told them and they ran to her. They all sat in a circle trying to save the poor blue fish. Guys, I wasn't even sure what to say to them. My dad would weep at the vegetarians in the making before my very eyes. Sasha and Xavier huddled over the fish and Bella stood wincing in pain as she placed too much weight on her foot. Bella. I know, but it's weird limping around on that thing. She said as I helped her off her leg and back to her seat. Well, if you don't use them you will be in pain longer. I told her, kneeling before her leg to inspect it, or maybe I just wanted to touch her more. I wasn't sure at this point. I'm fine, Doc. Just save the fish. She snickered. I don't want to save it. They are going to become vegetarians if they worry about it too much. I pouted before laughing at myself. She crossed her arms at me. And what are wrong with vegetarians? My father always said we did not fight our way up the evolutionary ladder to eat grass. She shook her head at me. Go do fish CPR or something. CPR, right, that I said before taking her lips. She smiled against my lips and her hand went my cheek. I didn't want to stop. She tasted heavenly. Daddy, come on. Ah, why do you kids hate me? I whispered, breaking away from her lips. Go, Daddy. She said, nothing to our kids for the very first time. I kind of wished I had left them at home. Who knew when Bella and I would connect like this again if she got her memory back? Again, I was a selfish asshole, but I couldn't help it. Daddy. I'm coming. I'm coming. I sighed. I turned back to her one more time just to find her looking at me as I looked at her. Maybe my mom could take them just for the day or something. I kind of just watched them in awe. They were just so happy and bubbly. They were so cute with their chubby cheeks as they ate their pancakes. They poured so much syrup over them that it was hard to actually see the pancake. Edward cut it up for them as I simply sat on the chair with a cup of coffee in my hands. What made this whole thing even funnier was the fact that it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We had all overslept, but I guess we really had nothing else to do. What, Mommy? Xavier paused, looking back at me. His smile slowly broke down and I could see the worry creeping in his tiny brown eyes. Was he worried about me? Did I make him nervous? I reached over, wiping the syrup from his lips before smiling. I was just thinking I have the cutest little boy in the whole wide world and I love him so much. He grinned wildly, his face brightening. I love you too, Mommy. Me too, Mommy. You love me too? Sasha said too, siding up early. They were like flowers, both reaching for the sun after being in the dark for so long. It was wrong that she had to question if her own mother loved her. Sasha waited. I love both equally, to the moon and back, no matter what. I said to her. She nodded, going back to her food. Xavier and her whispered to themselves, laughing quietly. I jumped slightly when Edward sat next to me, placing his hand on my thigh. Looking to me, his eyes were glazed over and I couldn't read all the emotion in them. I saw sadness, confession and hope. Can we watch TV now? Sasha asked us, forcing us to look away from each other. Sure. I said before he could. They grinned, sliding out of their chairs quickly when Edward coughed. Aren't you forgetting something? They turned back and he was pointing at their plates. I rolled my eyes at him before smiling. I got it this time, go. I told them and they ran off before we could stop them again. Really, you got it? Edward smirked, looking down at the stupid cast on my leg. And how do you plan on doing that? Challenge accepted. I stuck my tongue out at him, rising from the chair and standing on one leg. I grabbed the plates, forks, and spoons, before turning back around. Edward resting his face in his hand as he watched, amused. He even backed up some to allow me on my way. Well, I jumped forward and he broke out laughing. You're going to hop really? I could just walk on my foot. Don't you dare. He got up coming in front me with my crutches. We will just trade. Sighing I nodded, not wanting to break them or be on my leg for even longer. But I want to help wash them, I'm starting to feel like a freeloader. I said when he took the plates. His eyebrows crushed together as he looked back at me. Why in the world would you feel like a freeloader in your own home? I didn't say anything, I just continued on my way to the kitchen. But he followed and I just knew he wasn't going to let it go. Bella, why do you feel like a freeloader? See, not letting it go. Sighing I turned to him. What was what was I like before? He frowned, placing the plates in the sink and shook his head. It doesn't. Please don't say that. I snapped. Please don't say that because it does matter. It matters a lot. Why, you don't remember? But you do? I hissed right back. You remember. Sasha and Xavier remember. Everyone does. It's like everyone is in on some terrible secret that I'm not. I want to know and I don't want you sugarcoating it for me. Sasha just questioned me if I loved her. She actually questioned that. A 4-year-old should never have to wonder that. He gripped onto the sink, looking out at them before snickering bitterly. You know, I said that same thing to you once. What? She had an ear infection and kept crying for you, but you didn't want to be around her. You pushed them away. It's what you do, Bella. The moment things get hard, you push them away. I don't remember you ever being around them when they truly needed you. When they were happy, sure you would watch, but God forbid they weren't happy for a second and you would lose it. You would run. That's what you were doing when you almost got yourself killed on that bloody bus. You ran away because you couldn't deal with us. You had to get better, you had to feel something other than misery. That's what we were to you, misery, a chain, barely even keeping you here. You yelled at them for the stupidest things. You were a horrible, selfish and mean mother. And if I wasn't so worried about what would happen to Xavier and Sasha, I would have left you. I wanted to leave you. I almost did 12 times. When he finished, I took a step back. He hadn't once looked to me. But it felt like he had slapped me across the face. Everything in me shook and I didn't know why. I didn't do any of those things. Did I ever hit them? I found the will to ask. If you did, I would have killed you myself. He muttered seriously and I nodded, holding onto my crutches. Good. I'm going to lay down, my legs hurt. I whispered, moving to the room. I wasn't sure how fast I was going, but the door barely closed before I threw myself onto the bed. The fact that she was once verbally abusive made me sick. The tears poured from my eyes and I didn't bother to wipe them away. I could still remember every foster home I had been in. The smells, the yelling, the hate. I was in and out of them all my life. It was cliche to say that the foster system was horrible and full of abuse, and maybe it wasn't that way for other kids, but for me. I was scared every night. I ran away as often as I could. The foster mothers called me anything from a whore to another stupid mouth to feed. Bella. I looked back at the door to find Esme standing there. She looked like a hippie version of Mary Poppins with her oversized bag and colorful clothing. Now I'm seeing things. I muttered to myself. No, it's me, and why is it so dark in here? She snapped her fingers and the curtains flew open wider. Edward called me to come take the children for the afternoon so the two of you could talk. But it seems you both already did that. He went for a walk by the lake with the kids. He talked and I listened. Now can you please shut those? I waved my hands and curtains flew back together. I sat up, looking at my hands, then at curtains. Waving my hand over them again, I watched as they opened slowly. Great, just great. More freaky things to add to this sediment of I stole my sister's life, staring Isadora and Isabella. Are you done feeling pitiful? Esme asked, moving to the edge of the bed and pulling things out her bag. No, I am not. I frowned, siding up. I'm pissed at you too. You should have done something. You should have helped us. Told us. You just threw us away. Yes, I did. She snapped back at me. She shook her head at me. Yes, I abandoned you both, and yes, I should have done more, but I was scared. That came out of left field, scared. She sighed, taking a seat beside me. There are about 100 witches in Washington. There used to be a lot more of us. Do you know what the suicide rate is for a witch? Why in the hell would witches kill themselves? It sounds fun. We can have powers everyone human secretly hopes to have. We can do such amazing things, but every day of our lives we live in hiding. We can't tell anyone who or what we are, that is the rule. After what happened in Salem, every witch swore by it. I had just found the love of my life. I had 2 kids of my own, one of them coming into her own powers. It was too much for me and I was scared. I was scared that I would drop one of the balls I was trying so hard to juggle. I told myself what I needed to forget about you both. And then Isabella met Edward. She nodded. Why, I am not sure, but by the time there was barely anything I could do, she was broken. She hid it well, but she was broken, and it was her own magic breaking her. Why not me? Why am I not broken? Who says you're not? You just aren't broken in the same way. She handed me a small vial of some bright blue liquid. I never claimed to be your fairy godmother. I've never claimed that I was great. I'm flawed. I have issues. I fear things as well. But I will also not make the same mistake twice. I want to help you. You want to help me erase my sister. Just take over her life like nothing is wrong and move on. From her bag this time she pulled 2 candles. Handing me one and taking the other, she looked me in the eye. Why don't you ask Isabella? What? Daroops. Asvatica. Meliusmos. She said, and candle lit itself before going out just as quickly. In orbs of light there she was standing right in front of the door. She looked the same. She was still dressed in the clothes she died in, however now they were clean. Hi. She smiled. I've hit batshit level crazy. I whispered, standing up. I know, right? Witches, I knew I was special. She laughed, walking about the room. She glazed her hands over everything. I always hated this cabin, it feels so old. I couldn't speak. What did one say to the ghost of their sister? You should say something, I don't have much time. She told me, still looking around. I'm sorry for hitting on your husband. He's not my husband, he's yours. She said, simply stopping when she reached in front of me. Or at least I asked you to take him. You were dying. And now I'm dead. You still have to feel something. I don't want to replace you. She smiled, reaching up to touch my face. You're kind. Much kinder than me, or who I was at least. Edward is a good guy, but I was never in love with him. You married him. You guys have kids. How could she just say that? He was never supposed to find me, he wasn't meant for me. He was meant for you. Do you know that you and I have almost met over 1,000 times? She laughed. 8,000. She nodded, shaking her head with a grin. Fate had been trying to bring us together forever, but we always just missed each other. I've seen it. The night I met Edward, it was a college party and you were there. The only college party I've been to was at Delta Phi. She finished for me and my eyes widened. You were there, no wonder people kept asking me how I changed so quickly. I was so drunk that night I just hadn't thought about it. Edward was there and he saw you. He fell in love with the way you laughed and your good awful jokes. When he went searching for you, he found me. Edward has been searching for you and me for years, and now here you are. Fate has finally corrected itself. That didn't make it better by what killing you off. Giving me peace. I've done a lot of bad things, I've hurt a lot of people. If I was alive I would do it all over again. It's in my nature to hurt because that is all I ever feel is hurt. Now my kids get to know I did care, I just wasn't able to. That makes me so happy. They are finally happy. Her brown eyes looked to the side of her as though she was reading something, maybe listening to someone. My time is up. No. I sat quickly, grabbing onto her. There is still so much I want to say to you. I never had a sister. You lose a sister and gain a family. I'm sorry, Bella, but I truly can't stay here any longer. She started to fade when I let go. It's not right. What's not right is your split ends, sis. You or me, I want you to look the part even if you are different on the outside. Check my computer. She grinned, waving to me until she was gone. For a couple seconds I just stared at the door, not at all sure what had just happened. Will asked, coming in view. I looked to her, confused. Didn't you see her? No. It would have taken too much for us both to see her. Did it help? She asked me, siding up. I'm not sure. It's all very fast. Asm took my hand and lifted up the drink for me to see. Just live, Bella. That is what everyone is telling you, just live. So I just drank from the bottle. I had never done drugs, but I was sure it must have felt like it, drinking whatever it was Asm had given me. My whole body, even my own mind, felt relaxed. For the first time since everything had happened, I simply rested. I sat up on the balcony deck of the master bedroom, watching as the sun slowly set over the horizon. Everything looked magical, the reds and oranges of the treetops all danced in the wind. It kind of made me feel like I was Pocahontas and wanted to run with all the colors of the wind. Reaching beside me, I flipped through the grimoire, as Esme had called it. She had explained that it was only for witches. Anyone else that tried to read it would mistake it for some kind of cookbook. You haven't eaten anything? Edward whispered, coming up beside me. He walked all the way to the balcony edge and rested. We hadn't spoken since he vented out his anger. I truthfully hadn't thought about it with everything else that had happened. He turned to me, waiting for me to say something, so I shrugged. I wasn't hungry. He nodded. Yea, neither was I. What time did Esme say she was bringing the kids back? I'm not sure. She just said she will come back later. He whispered, looking over at the trees. I hated silence.
When I was by myself, I didn't mind it, but when I was with other people, it made me anxious.
Edward, can you just say whatever it is on your mind? That's just it. I'm trying to figure out what's on your mind, he smirked sadly. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was just angry and confused and doing what I asked you to do. So you aren't angry, he said slowly, bringing himself to sit in the second chair. No. I'm sad, disappointed, but that isn't me. The person you were describing isn't me, and I've already decided to prove that to everyone. Until then, all I can do is move forward. He stared at me for a moment. So the reason you haven't come out of the room is your mother drugged me. I laughed, lifting the vial for him to see. I told her I had a headache and she pulled this out of her Mary Poppins bag. Mom. He groaned, reaching for the vial. Dad, and I have told her a million times, stop with the homemade medicine. He sniffed and jerked back in digest. It tasted just as bad as it smelled, but on the bright side, my headache is gone and I feel really good. She always had us drink these things when we were young. Did it work? He pouted sometimes. I laughed then, no wonder why she never stopped. Before he could open his mouth, his stomach growled. A grin spread across my face before I finally just laughed. And you were worried about me. No sooner did the words leave my mouth before my stomach growled as well. He smirked. Chinese. Oh God, yes. I sat up, placing the grimoire on the chair. He helped me sit up before finally lifting me up. Edward, no. I'm too heavy. You're kidding me, right? He laughed as he carried me to the kitchen. I couldn't help but wrap my hands around his neck. I didn't want to let go. I wasn't sure what to say. He placed me on the stool before reaching for his cell phone. What do you want? Everything. I joked. Everything it is then. Edward. Edward, you are a monster. I laughed as she took the last egg roll. There you go, commenting on my eating habits again. She shook her head at me before taking a bite. I've just never seen you eat so much before. She groaned, placing her hand over her mouth. Are you telling me I hated food too, Edward? I urge you, you need to start giving me some good qualities about myself or I will just lose hope. I thought for a moment, then opened my mouth before shutting it again. What? You had great qualities, you have great qualities. I told her before drinking my beer, you write the most amazing poetry, you're the only person I've ever met that can actually sing in the shower, and you looked at me, well, like you are now. She looked away, biting her lip as she blushed. I have no idea what you are talking about, she said, reaching for my beer. She downed it quickly before handing it back to me. Looking at the bottle, then at her, I shook my head. It was like she was a totally different person. My Bella, the old Bella, didn't sit on the floor drinking beer and eating Chinese, but I didn't mind this Bella either. No, in fact, I think I wanted her more. I remembered something, she said softly. Just like that, my heart stopped. Really, what? Was she getting her memory back? Delta Phi. She looked at me. I don't remember talking to you, but I remember being there and dancing, drinking. This time I bit my lip, fighting back a smile. Delta Phi, wow. That feels like forever ago, but I remember you were the life of the party. Oh God. Hey, but what were you doing there? You're like 28. You were way too old to be at a frat party. Ouch. Geez, I'm not that old. Oh, you're one of those guys. She winked once again, taking my beer. I think you just called me a creep. I was a member of Delta Phi and was being given an award. It's not my fault some of the younger guys decided to have a party one house over. Sure. She smiled, drinking. What's your excuse? Youth? She said. I was young, hell, I'm still young. Rolling my eyes, where was all that youth after we met? The moment I said it, I wanted to slap myself. Erg. There I went with my digs again. Bella, I'm so sorry. It's fine, Edward. No, it's not. Let me apologize. You don't remember, and for me to keep attacking you is wrong. I'm sorry. Reaching over, she took my hand. You've spent years one way and now everything has changed. I get it. I'm still a little confused, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. But if you want to walk away. No. I said a little too quickly. I mean, I'm happy. I'm really happy. Okay, I believe you. She laughed. A second later she froze as a song came on the radio. Arg, no. What? She pouted. This is my song and I want to dance, but this stupid anchor on my leg is killing me. Standing up, I reached for her. Edward, no. Oh no, your wish is my command and we are doing this. I told her, pulling her up. Edward, how is this going to work? She asked me as I held onto her. I lifted her up onto my feet. Just don't make any sudden movements on that leg. Whatever you say, Doc. She smirked, staring right at me. She was so close. I could feel every curve of her. Reaching up, I brushed her hair back as we swayed. We should do this more often. Dance, she asked. Yeah, and talk, and she kissed me, and I was just getting used to the taste of her when she pulled away. We should do that too, she said. And more, I whispered, kissing her back. We were going to be okay. I felt it in my heart. We were going to be okay. Hope you all liked the video. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.